Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast. On the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. Joining me today is Derek Parker at DParkOK, Derek-Parker on YouTube. You can find both of us over at thunderonsi.com and the OKC Dream Team podcast. This is Locked On Thunder Live, in addition to your Monday through Friday viewing, and after every single post-game. We do these live streams twice a week, Monday and Thursday, 2 p.m. Central, here on the Locked On Thunder YouTube channel. The Thunder are 5-0, but we just heard from Sam Presti with an important medical update on Nikola Topic. So let's get into that first, Derek. After shoot-around today, ahead of tonight's game against Washington, Isaiah Hartenstein talked first, and typically that's how it goes. It's one player, and then you leave. But after Isaiah Hartenstein was done talking, Sam Presti came over and addressed us, and he said that Nikola Topic does have testicular cancer. Following the Thunder's first preseason game, Topic underwent a testicular procedure, which was necessary, Sam said, to figure this out. He initially had a reevaluation date for mid-November, but Sam Presti came over and informed us that the biopsy did determine that Nikola Topic has testicular cancer, and the doctors recommended chemotherapy, which Topic has started. Topic didn't want this to become public knowledge until he started his treatments, which he now has. Sam Presti said, quote, that he has a tremendous group of oncologists, both at OU and MD Anderson, and they are extremely positive about his outlook in dealing with the situation. Sam Presti also said, quote, Topic didn't want to make this information public until he had begun actual treatments, which he has. He's been in the Thunder's facility. He's been training. He's been working out through this process. As we all know, this will be a challenging treatment process to go through. And then he also mentioned that Topic is a remarkable guy, and he has the maturity and composure and resilience and all the tools necessary that you can ask of somebody to take on and conquer this situation. Sam Presti also mentioned, of course, that testicular cancer is the most treatable cancer in men. So obviously our thoughts and prayers are with Nikola Topic, his family, his loved ones. This really does impact everybody whenever this gets put onto you. There's clearly no timetable for his return to basketball, which is not important. What's important right now is his health and getting through this battle. Just as a aside, Jeff Stotts, who keeps track of NBA injuries and has for a long time with his site in Street Clothes, he does note that this has happened before with NBA players. Nene, for example, had the same exact diagnosis. He ended up missing 76 days, although, again, note that cancer treatments are never the same, so that's not really what you go off of. But what you do go off of is Nene was able to beat this and then play 11 more seasons in the NBA. So it's happened before. The Thunder have a ton of great team members around him. He's in a great spot in terms of treatment. And, again, our thoughts and prayers are with Topic and with his family.
Yeah, you want to send good vibes his way, obviously. You touched on it there. I think not that the other 29 teams in the league wouldn't take this seriously. I think every organization would take this with the utmost seriousness, but the Thunder being so community-driven, the team is obviously so tight-knit. The front office has always been very transparent with their players. I think it's a good spot to be in given the circumstances. So yeah, obviously want to send thoughts, prayers, good vibes his way.
Yeah, so the announcement has been officially made today. And again, we don't know anything more than that. So there's no need to say anything else other than thoughts and prayers with Nikola Topic. And the most important part is him being just healthy in general before you talk anything else about the basketball court. But there's no easy way or good way to transition out of news like this. Again, stressing the importance of this is the biggest story. This is the biggest moment of the day. And obviously this is the most important thing happening. But we also will talk about basketball. And so the Thunder are 5-0. They beat the Sacramento Kings with a comeback on Tuesday. And we've seen them play 5 games now. They've all been shorthanded games. They've all had their different levels of adversity, being shorthanded with travel, back-to-backs, 3 games in 4 nights. Derek, what's your biggest takeaway through the first 5 games of this season?
Yeah, my first takeaway is that defense is still king. I think the Thunder proved that last offseason. Their defense was a large part of the reason they went on to win the championship. And this year, that still seems to be the case. They have the best record in the NBA. There's 3 other undefeated teams, but they are the only team sitting at 5-0. They have the number 1 defensive rating in the league. It feels like it. They've still got guys like Shea hounding at the point of attack, Cason Wallace, Chet Holmgren, Alex Caruso intermittently. They're number 21 in offensive rating. We'll talk about it more, I'm sure, but they have not necessarily been a great offensive team. But again, defense is king. They're at 5-0 because of their defense. It's the brand of basketball that they want to play. It's their identity. They've built the personnel out to be able to be aggressive on that end. So through 5 games, it's nothing new, but defense to me is still the number 1 factor for success, both now and moving forward in this Thunder season.
Yeah, and that just speaks to the Thunder's depth and their ability to overcome the fact that, throughout this season, it's not just been injuries, but injuries to very important pieces. J-Dub has not made his season debut yet. That's an all-defensive player. Through the first 5 games, Caruso missed 3 of them. That's another all-defensive player. Chet Holmgren has he's missed 1 game. He's going to miss again tonight with lower back soreness. So missing 1 game of Chet, which is one of the best defenders in the world, and a guy who has the ability to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, missing those pieces defensively and still having the number 1 defensive rating in the NBA, obviously on a small sample size, but the Thunder sample size of doing this is much larger than 5 games, clearly. Right. So that's just a huge boost to them and how they've been able to grind out some games, even though they're only the 21st offensive rating so far this season, which does play into the fact that you've missed your all-NBA forward, who's your number 2 scoring option. So the defense staying at peak performance is impressive, because there was a lot of talks this summer of just, well, can they do it again? And this is another statistical outlier, Derek. Like, if you look back at the history of the best defenses in the NBA season over season, it's not that they fall off of a cliff, but they rarely ever go back to back of being the top defense 2 years in a row. And this team is uniquely positioned to do that on top of already missing defensive players.
Right. 100%. I mean, there's no question, like you touched on, they're going to get guys back that are, J-Dub was all defense second team last year. Like, he's potentially the most versatile, maybe not the outright best, but the most versatile piece here in terms of being able to guard 1 through 5. Caruso hasn't played in every game. Chet hasn't played in every game. They're really, really good defensively, and it stands to reason that they're going to continue to be moving forward.
Yeah, I really think that will be a great thing for the Thunder to get these guys back. I think that you touched it right there of J-Dub, like his versatility. The Thunder have a lot of depth, and they have a lot of redundancy of depth, which is a good thing, because it lets you kind of navigate times like this where the waters are messy with being shorthanded in your rotation. But the one thing that they can't replicate and can't reproduce is J-Dub's versatility. A guy who truly can and has defended centers, defended point guards, and everything in between. Truly 1 through 5. One of the rare people who that's not just a buzzword. It's not just something you throw on them haphazardly. Like, he really does that. And so, like, his versatility coming back will be big. Getting into passing lanes, all the things that he does will be awesome for this team. And so they'll remain the best defense in the league. I think that this is a small sample size that actually does matter. Like, it actually will bear out. Some of the other small sample size stats so far this season, you can kind of see through that they're not going to hold up that way, but I think that this is one that will. The Thunder have already played in so many clutch time games. They lead the NBA in 35 clutch time minutes so far this year. They've played 2 double overtime games, but for reference, last year they had the best point differential in the NBA, and they only played in 1 overtime game the entire 82-game season. And they had the fewest clutch minutes in the entire NBA season. I believe that they had 66 clutch minutes last year. They already have 35 this year. And they gained clutch experience with the playoffs. But in the playoffs, like, we saw them drop game 1 against Denver, game 1 against Indiana, in clutch situations where they kind of folded down the stretch in certain moments, and they could have been better. They could have been sharper. And heading into last postseason, that was a big question mark of how would they handle when the games get tighter, because they never had faced that in the regular season. And so you could kind of put that concern to bed after the playoffs to navigate their way to an NBA championship. But why I think it's still important for them to get this repetition this season is not only to put themselves even more scenarios to work out of, but it's because they're so shorthanded and because they're still finding ways to win, while putting AJ Mitchell, while putting Aaron Wiggins, while putting these guys in clutch time basketball who didn't get firsthand experience in that last year. Like, it was not Mitchell, it was not Wiggins on the court down the stretch against Denver, down the stretch against Indiana. And so now they're getting their piece of experience here in the clutch. And I think that's going to end up making them a better team down the road.
Yeah, I think the clutch time has been awesome. I do wonder how sustainable this is. Just like last season, I wondered how sustainable not having clutch time minutes is. This season, I wonder how sustainable keeping every single game down to the wire is. I think you would love to see a little bit of middle ground, but to your point, you would almost rather have the clutch time going into the postseason, unlike last season where they kind of had to learn on the fly in the postseason. I think you'd prefer what they're doing this year. Still would like to see a little bit of middle ground, but can't argue with 5-0, and you especially can't argue with all the different ways they found to win, whether it's leaning on Shea, using kind of connective offense and defense, using just defense to kind of fuel these avalanche type runs. So it's been an impressive season so far. Certainly a good takeaway. And my next would be that Wiggins might need a little bit more time, at least in the early season, while the offense is struggling. Wiggins so far has been one of the better offensive players for this Thunder team. He's gone for double figures, I believe, in every game. Is that correct, Rylan?
Mitchell has for sure. I don't know that Wiggins has. I can double check that, but it sounds right. I mean, it sounds right. Let's go with it right now, and I'll double check that.
Regardless, 14.2 points per game this year. Yeah. That is an upgrade. He is
every
one
game
of the
except
only...
for Atlanta. Atlanta, he had 9 points in 27 minutes, but then he had double figures in the rest of them.
I think you can give him one extra point from
just throw it in there. It all averages out clearly.
14.2. That's up from 12 last season. Most notably, he is one of the only Thunders who's really, really shooting the ball well right now, which is the biggest reason he may need a little bit more offensive time right now. He is shooting the ball at a 38% clip on nearly 7 attempts per game. That is the same percentage as last year. And obviously, again, everything we talk about right now is small sample size, but 38%, that stands to hold probably through the season. He's doing it on more than 2 attempts per game than last season, 6.8. It's a ton. I think in this time that the Thunder are struggling offensively, they're struggling to create a little bit. They're especially struggling to hit threes. Wiggins could stand to use just a little bit more time. Now, I think he has been better, as you often talk about, on defense. That's like the number one reason that he doesn't get the 35 plus minutes a night and he's more relegated to the 20, 25 minutes a night, is because he's just not a great defensive matchup for a lot of players. But I think he's gotten a little better. We saw the rebounding the other night. He's been a really good rebounder. Rebounding numbers are up. Assist numbers are up. He had a really clutch assist to Caruso the other night. Shooting numbers are up. Points per game are up. I think you might just need to play him a little bit more. And again, once all these defensive pieces get back and once Jalen Williams is back, as we'll get into, I think that shifts things around. But for now, in this season that the Thunder are really, really struggling to shoot, I think it stands to reason that Wiggins could play just a little bit more here in the early slate.
Yeah, I think that he had his most complete game of his career on Tuesday against Sacramento. Like, he was denying entry passes to Sabonis. He blocked Sabonis. He blocked Russ twice. He got steals. He got 6 rebounds. And then on top of the scoring production, which you mentioned his assists, like he had 6 assists as well. And those assists were set up by the fact that early in that game, he was so forceful getting to the rim. The Kings reacted to that throughout the game and adjusted to that. And so then he took that knowledge. He saw the game very clearly and used that to his advantage to create assists for other players. And so it was a complete game from Wiggins from top to bottom on both ends. And that was something that was very encouraging, because to do that against Sabonis, yes, Sabonis has been struggling, and he had a horrendous game on Tuesday. But it's just a bigger body that Wiggins had to match up with at times that typically he has not done well against, and he's admitted himself from his own words he's not comfortable defending bigger bodies last year. He looks more comfortable this year. He looks more adequate at doing that this year. And if that small sample size of a game holds and translates to a longer stretch here of him doing those things, it makes him almost impossible to take out of this lineup, because that's the one area that stopped him. Like, that's the only thing that stopped him, is being able to defend bigger bodies from being a staple and a minutes galore kind of guy, because he can score at all 3 levels offensively and really help you stay afloat on that end. So that's going to be a big deal for Wiggins. I like that takeaway. Coach Woj also says he'll be at the game tonight. That'll be fun to see the Wizards young core tonight in the Paycom Center. You can find Derek and I at section 104. I can even give you a Locked On Thunder sticker if you would like. But moving on to the next takeaway for me, I think the Thunder need to play with more pace. They're 27th in pace right now. Mark has talked about this before this week, about getting out and running in transition and creating more pace. I think that they did a good job of this in the first quarter against Sacramento. where even after made buckets from Sacramento, they were getting down the floor quickly. It led to some turnovers. You want to clean that up. But just in general, I think you need to play with more pace. And the Wizards game tonight, the Wizards are top 5 in pace. So it should be an easy game to get out and run. And I really want to see them make that adjustment tonight.
100%. They've played a lot more in the half court this year. And friend of the pod, Andrew Schlecht, asked Mark about that. Off the cuff, he was like, I think that's because of the double overtime games. Obviously, there's not a lot of transition play. One of the things where you're listening to Mark and you're just like, he's smarter and a better basketball mind to bring that up off the cuff. But I fully agree. He said, Mark, that they did this well, like you said, in the first quarter versus Sacramento, but that they missed opportunities in the middle of the game to do this. I would expect it's probably been hammered pretty hard in the last few days. And like you said, with Washington coming up, who isn't a stellar defensive team. They have really good pieces in SAR, but they're not a complete product yet, as everyone knows. One of the fresher rebuilds in the league. And then them also having some fresh legs, wanting to play with pace. I would expect it to pick up against Washington.
I really think that it should. And I think that if it doesn't, then it'll be a bigger talking point in this game. I mean, if you can't do it now, then you start to wonder, well, is it a J-Dub issue of like missing J-Dub, missing Chet, which is a plausible reason if it doesn't happen, like what's going on with their pace. I think that tonight, though, things will look pretty normal for Oklahoma City, even though they remain shorthanded.
Yeah, and to that exact point, my last takeaway here, and I've touched on the offense, but my takeaway is that I wouldn't really worry about the offense and more specifically the shooting until Jalen Williams is back. I think, obviously, he was All-NBA, All-Star last year, All-Defense. He is like a gravitational force as far as NBA players go, and especially in this Thunder system that he has been given the leash on offense. It's easy to point to him and say, hey, he makes the Thunder offense better, but it's also about the gravity that he creates and how he can impact the other players on the floor as well. So while the Thunder offense hasn't been good yet, and while the Thunder shooting hasn't even been average yet, I think Jalen Williams really stands to impact that, both with his own shooting. He's a career somewhere in the range of 40% shooting on good volume, and with the pure gravity that he'll allow for other guys and Isaiah Joe to come back. So really wouldn't be too worried about the offense until Jalen Williams gets back, despite it not being great just yet.
Yeah, that's a great point about J-Dub in general. Like a lot of the stuff that you might be concerned about, you might be monitoring, you might be wondering about, of like, why is this not looking exactly like last year did, or better than last year did, or even the same as last year did. A lot of that stems from not having Jalen Williams. And like Williams is that impactful. It's why he's an All-NBA player. It's why he's a top 30 player in this league. It's why that he was an All-NBA, All-Defensive player for OKC. So that is a great point. I will cap it with the only thing I'm monitoring short term from this shooting struggles, because this is a team that is a streaky 3-point shooting team. Last year, they started out in October shooting 27% from 3, but then they end the year 6th in the NBA in 3-point percentage. So they went from 27th to 6th in the season after starting out really slow. Is Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace from 3 is a guy who I think you can put under the microscope, because we've seen such a variety of outcomes from him. Like from Lou Dort, you've seen a couple of years of 40% shooting. From Jay Will, you've seen him shoot the ball well in the NBA his entire career so far. From Cason Wallace, you've seen his rookie season, he shot 42% from 3 on 3 attempts per game. Then last year, he shot 35% from 3 on 3.1 attempts per game. This year, while he is shooting a career high in threes, 5.3 attempts a night, he's only shooting 28%. Now, let's be clear, 28% is like, that's not going to happen. That's not sustainable. He's going to shoot better than 28%. But it's harder to find a standard to hold Cason Wallace to when his only 2 years of work has been so dramatically different, of like 42% being elite, 35% being kind of average, and it's all right. Okay, that's a nice little number. So where in there does he finish? Is he a 35% shooter? Is he a 37% shooter? Does he jump all the way back up to that 40% threshold? And I just want to see where he levels off at, because the body of work is just not as big of a sample size as it is for some of the other guys who are shooting poorly right now, like Lou Dort shooting poorly, like the fact that you have gotten nothing from Isaiah Joe yet because he hasn't debuted, and Jay Will shooting poorly right now. Like those are the two guys in all of this who are dramatically lower. It's like Chet's shooting the ball well, Wiggins is shooting the ball well. It's just the team standpoint is so dramatically bad that it's not reflecting it in the team statistics. SGA shooting the ball poorly, SGA kind of does this every single start of the season where he shoots too many threes and he misses them and he's working on his threes. And then eventually he kind of levels back out to a 35% shooter. So SGA has a huge body of work. Lou Dort has a huge body of work, and J-Will has a huge body of work to lean back on. With Kaysen, you just have gotten two wildly different sample sizes, and I want to see which one comes true.
Yeah, it's a really, really good call out, because I think if you were to think back to his first 2 seasons, you wouldn't notice how different the shooting gap was. And you're absolutely right. 42 is very, very different than 35. The one thing I have to add to this, and I scouted Kaysen Wallace. I believe that was one of my first NBA draft classes that I really, really dove in. He's been fairly streaky dating back to college. He was a Kentucky guard. I was really, really high on him. But he switched roles midway through his freshman season at Kentucky. He basically went from shooting guard to point guard. I believe there was an injury or someone wasn't playing well. Regardless, he moved from shooting guard to point guard, and he stopped shooting the ball well late in the season, having moved to point guard. Now, I'm not saying that he did that for this Thunder team. Obviously, he hasn't seen some like massive boost in handling or passing, but he is playing a little bit more of that role, I will say, than he will be once Jalen Williams is back, once they're really, really hammering actions with Shea and Chet, things like that. So I do think his numbers stand to boost. I don't know if we're going to see that in the coming weeks. I don't know if we'll see that when J-Dub actually gets back, but I think he does do better with just more simple spot ups. Like, he's coming off screen a lot right now. He's boosted his just pure volume a lot. So certainly something to monitor. I would expect the numbers to rise, though, pretty soon.
Yeah, and to that point, like, he is getting his three-point opportunities more off of movement, off of DHOs, curling off screens, relocating on the perimeter, which are all great things, and all things that we spent the whole summer saying that this team has to improve on and has to work on, and they cannot rely on the stationary catch and shoot, drive and kick threes that get taken away so easily in the postseason. And if you think back to last year, Isaiah Joe, well, he didn't shoot the ball horrendously or anything, but by Isaiah Joe's standards, the first half of the season before January, he did not shoot the way that Isaiah Joe typically shoots the ball. And Isaiah Joe admitted it's because they were trying to incorporate more of these different shot quality looks, playing off of iHeart last year for the first time for Isaiah Joe. And then at the turn of the calendar year, Isaiah Joe got right back to where he's always been, and he got comfortable, and he started hitting threes at a clip that more looked like Isaiah Joe. So it could be a little column A, little column B. Like, you're missing J-Dub, you're missing some of the scoring gravity around him, but you're also asking him to try out new things, and the new things sometimes lead to worse shooting percentages than if he would have just gotten the shots he's already comfortable with. But in the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things, this step back right now from three could be better for him and be better for this team in the long haul. Speaking of him and this team, they're taking on the Washington Wizards, Derek. And I know that you don't always like to say positive things about my Washington Wizards. I know that this pains you to bring up my Washington Wizards, but Coach K says that Keyshawn George has been great this year. I agree.
Yep.
They have a lot of interesting pieces to varying degrees. Alex Sarr, George, Bub Carrington, but like Labale is still in that young core. Trey Johnson, your guy. Who of this Wizards young core are you most excited to see today?
I mean, you touched on it. I'm most excited to see Trey Johnson, but I am really excited to get a close-up look at Keyshawn George, because, I mean, right now I just don't know how sustainable what he's doing is. Not in a bad way. Like, I would love for it to be, but I think an in-person close-up look against a really, really good defense could give some insight into whether this is like a real leap for Keyshawn George, or if he's just kind of destined to be a really good role player opposed to an actual star, which is what he's been so far through 5 games for the Wizards.
Yeah, and I think that Washington is having the exact season that you want to have if you're a team in their position. It's like, these have been fun games. Even the game that they lost last time out against Philadelphia, like, they blew a lead against Philadelphia, and they struggled to close it out and hold off a run from Quentin Grimes and them boys a couple of nights ago, on Tuesday actually, for Washington. And they went to their veterans down the stretch of that game, which I wouldn't have done, but they did it, and it didn't work, and they lost the game. But they lose 139 to 134. They've only been blown out one time on the year so far, if you really look at it from that standpoint of like being blown out from start to finish. And I think that Washington is in that spot where you want them because they're doing enough to show you they have a promising young core, but they're also not winning a ton of games. Like, right now they're 1-3. And That's what you want because they owe their first round pick to New York if they win too many games. So you want to walk that delicate line of like losing, but also showing you have a good young core. I think that they're doing that really well.
100%. Couldn't have said it better. This is exactly what you want from a young core. You want them to lose games because ultimately I don't think they're to a point where they're like ready to hit the go button. Like I think they ideally probably do want one, at maximum two more top draft picks, but they're getting development now. They're in games. They're learning how to like lose and win together. So exactly what you want from the start of the season. And if it could continue, if you go win 20 games, but you're in 50 of your 80 games, then that's a huge, huge positive momentum boost for a franchise that I really like. I've really liked what they've done so far. It's tough. You've turned me against them via betting.
Via betting, we have turned you against them, and betting, of course, runs rampant in this league. So make sure that you're ready for tonight's game against Washington. Anything that you're just like looking forward to? I mentioned the pace. Anything else that you're looking forward to about tonight's game?
No, again, just seeing these Wizards up close. I think they're a really, really fun team. I believe Bilal Coulibaly's making his debut tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think he's played this season. I think he's playing tonight, so that'll be fun. I'm curious to see if he is going to be a legit piece to this team this year, or if he's going to kind of get put on the back burner as other guys like Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson emerge. So keeping a side eye on Bilal Coulibaly for now.
Yeah, as of their last injury report, only Bagley is on the report. So we're going to get to see these Wiz kids up close and personal. We'll talk about that, and we're going to map out our Thunder rotation. A lot's been made about how shorthanded they are, but whenever everyone's back and everyone is ready to go, what will their starting lineup look like? What will their bench look like? And how does this team shape up? We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder and their game against the Wizards, injury updates, and now their rotation with Derek Parker. This is Lockdown Thunder Live, Monday and Thursday, live 2 p.m. Central on the Lockdown Thunder YouTube channel, and then on your podcast feeds after the fact, in addition to our 5-day-a-week show on Lockdown Thunder and after every single post game. So, Derek, I asked you to map out the Thunder's rotation. Give me the key reserves, give me the starting lineup, and we know that Mark typically plays 11, 12, 13 guys. So for the sake of simplicity, let's just do an 11-man rotation, kind of meet in the middle here with what Mark typically does. So what's your starting five for this team whenever everyone's back and you have everybody at your disposal?
Not a lot of mix up here. We have Shea, Dort, Dub, Chet, Ihart. That was the starters for the majority of last season. I don't know how much we want to get into in this segment, but would it be a hot take to say this might not be the five moving into the postseason?
What would be your five moving into the postseason?
I don't think it's out of the question Chet starts at the 5 and they bring Kaysen off the bench. I think we saw them do that with Alex Caruso in the finals last year. I think at like their absolute best and most consistent and just best like two-way product in general, I think Chet's at the 5. Now, do they want to do that for the entirety of the regular season where Chet's banging with like big-bodied 5s? I don't think so, but moving into the postseason, it wouldn't shock me, and maybe a little bit towards the end of the regular season, to see them mix it up a little bit. Go for guard. I think, again, ultimately, that's when they play with the most pace. I think their defense is just a little bit better when they've got 4 guys that can hound at the point of attack, and Chet's backing them up. Chet's a true rim protector in the paint. So, again, it is their typical 5 for me right now, but I would not be shocked to see them stray away from that a little bit through the regular season, and especially more as they get into the postseason and deep into the postseason.
I could see that being kind of the lineup that they want to go to in certain matchups, because Chet is just so much better offensively at the 5. And then I think that the reason you haven't seen them play Chet more at the 5 so far this season is because they just can't get away with it yet. Because they're going to be, if you have Chet at the 5 and you don't have Caruso, which they haven't for 3 of the 5 games, and you don't have J-Dub, who they haven't had all season, then who's your 4? If you want Chet to play the actual 5 and like be the lone big out there, you're very, very small at that point, and it's just not, you're not able to get away with that as easily as if you can have a bigger body like a J-Dub, or a guy who plays bigger than he is like a Caruso. Like we saw Caruso defend Jokic. We saw Caruso defend Jaren Jackson Jr. Like we've seen Caruso scale up defensively his entire career. So like it's just easier to envision that once these guys return. I think that I don't think it's a hot take, because I think that can be their best lineup. I think that whenever we're said and done and we're recapping this season, we could look back on a Shea, Kaysen, Lou, Dub, Chet lineup as their statistically best lineup and the lineup that makes you feel the best when watching it on the eye test of how everything functioned. I think so. I don't think that's a hot take. I do believe that the starting five will likely be the one that you just mentioned of Shea, Dort, Dub, Chet, Ihart, and it can look similarly to what it did against Minnesota, where it's like they did still remain with that starting five, and this was what was so annoying about the freak out over game one of the finals. It was like, while that was the starting lineup, and that was who conducted the jump ball and got their names announced, if you really dig into that series, like they lean more into Chet just being the five with Kaysen in there, and they handled Minnesota in a 5-game series. So all they did was just change who was out there for the opening tip. And in game one of the finals, they happened to lose it, and then people kind of overreacted to it. So I could see them doing more so what they did against Minnesota, of like if they view a matchup as being more beneficial for Chet playing the five, you still start the same way, but you very quickly pivot and go to Chet the five and Kaysen in there for Ihart. So that's kind of the starting five that we both had. Let's talk key reserves, though. And I wanted to get your key reserves in order. And your sixth man, technically, in terms of like importance, is
Alex Caruso. He didn't do anything to dissuade me from that last postseason. I mean, as I just touched on, they went and started him in some pretty crucial games. He closed several key games. I think when he's at his best and healthy and on the court with this Thunder team, he makes them just drastically better. I don't know that there's any player that could usurp that from him, even in this season. Again, that's health permitting. That's health permitting for the entirety of the Thunder, not just AC. But I think Alex Caruso is just that connective of an offensive piece. He's one of the few players that has proven to be able to hit big-time shots, space the floor in the biggest moments. And then defensively, I mean, what more can you even say about him? He's extremely proven, went and did the dang thing against Jokic last season. So AC would still be my honorary sixth man.
Yeah, and so I was looking at this through the lens of the playoffs.
Playoffs?
And I also have Caruso in this bunch here that does the sixth man, because he's the guy that in the playoffs, whenever you were the 13th out of 16 teams field from three-point land, whenever he let that ball go, you felt good that ball was going to go in, and he hit some timely threes. So that, coupled with his defense, coupled with his play finishing ability, both in transition and as a cutter off the ball in the half court, those are all the reasons why, and his leadership and his poise and his maturity, like those are all the reasons why that he'd be my main focus off the bench for OKC. Whenever you do get to a game or a situation or a series where your series has to truncate and you have to kind of focus on playing these guys all out, Caruso makes that cut for me without question. My number two guy in list of importance, it's not a surprise because it was my hot take all summer, but it's AJ Mitchell. I put him at number 7 now. I used to say he's going to be top 8. 7 is top 8. Put him at number 7 now because of what he's already shown you as a guy who can make life easier on Shea and make life easier on Jada by setting them up and letting them receive the ball wherever they want against any matchup they want to go attack them. How he can attack the rim on the ball. We've seen him try some pick and roll stuff where he even takes a 3 out of the pick and roll. That's been encouraging, but most importantly, not only can he set those guys up, he can benefit from playing alongside them as an off-ball play finisher. And so for all those reasons, on top of him being a defensive playmaker to start this season, getting into passing lanes, getting deflections, being able to change the momentum, I have AJ Mitchell as a guy who is just hard to replicate that ability to do both and do both effectively.
Yeah, I don't hate that take. And I think if you zoom out and you were to look at like maybe most minutes played, it wouldn't shock me if it was AJ. But for me, in terms of pure impact, I still think this is a defensive-minded team. And while AJ can maybe get to a plus, I don't know if we'd consider him a plus in like the Western Conference Finals and on, just seeing as how hard those matchups can be and how much smaller players can get picked on. I'm still going to go Kaysen Wallace here. He proved it last year. He didn't necessarily have a great scoring run, but still just one of the most versatile, game-changing defensive pieces that you can throw out there. If Caruso were to not be healthy, or if Caruso were to not be playing up to his standard for whatever reason, Kaysen's about as good as a replacement for that as you can get. You can throw them out together. You can throw them out in some sort of on-ball capacity where he can handle. I just think Kaysen Wallace is that dude. I think he'll continue to get better throughout the season. Obviously, he hasn't seen the offensive start that many people or himself likely wants, but to me, Kaysen Wallace is still a massive, massive part of this team. And then I would have AJ Mitchell next.
Yeah, so we just flip-flopped these two names. For me, Kaysen, like the only knock was that you saw last postseason the times where the half court offense labored. AJ is a guy who immediately changes your half court offense in a big way. And you have so many elite defenders around him that I think that he can make up for the lack of having Kaysen out there. But Kaysen, still exceptionally important, still a top 8 rotational player for me on this team. And that's really the threshold of like, if you're top 8, you're going to play big minutes in every playoff game. And Kaysen is going to be one of those guys. He has one of the best cutting ability on this team. And people do not really put that to memory because his cuts are not often these explosive backdoor cuts throwing down a lob, but he just kind of floats around. He's like a tight end. He just floats around to the open space and he'll float to the dunker spot. He'll flash in the lane. He'll go to the baseline and then he'll cap off a play with an easy point as he kind of sneaks behind the defense, given their back being turned to him, given the amount of attention that they play in the gaps to Shea and J-Dub, and that level of play finishing on top of if he levels off to the three-point shooter that we think he can be and hits these gimme shots, these wide open threes that are going to be set up by the amount of attention given to Shea and Dub in the paint. Kaysen is an exceptionally important player. And then his point of attack defense speaks for itself. I mean, he's an elite point of attack defender. And so that's what makes him so important.
Well, and to your earlier point about the top 8 being like, not the cutoff of who's going to play, but that's like an absolute locked in. Like if you're healthy, you're going to be getting major minutes on a really, really good basketball team. You have AJ 7, I have him 8. That's a testament to how good he's been in the early season. Like he has worked himself into the conversations with Cason Wallace, who, as of the end of last year, we would have said is like a major, major piece to this Thunder squad. He's, if not a little better, at least on even playing field with a guy like Kaysen now, given this, whatever it is, 17-4-4 start to the season. So AJ's been awesome. I fully agree. I think his offensive impact is going to go well beyond the box score. I think in addition to the box score, he's already been good there too. So he's an awesome player. I think he stands to make this Thunder offense a lot better as he has already. What would they be doing? I mean, the offensive numbers aren't good. What would they look like if AJ Mitchell had not broken out? You don't need to know, he has. So pretty incredible early season performance for him so far.
So now we have our final two, because we've both kind of reversed the Wiggins and Wallace role. I mean, the Wallace and Mitchell role. We have Wiggins, both of us do, after Caruso and Wallace. I think that this is self-explanatory with Wiggins. He is someone who can score at all 3 levels. He's the 3rd best shot creator on this team, unless Chet takes a massive step forward, which so far Chet has. So maybe he'll be the 4th best shot creator, but that's still really good from Aaron Wiggins. So Wiggins' ability to create his own shot, his ability to score at all 3 levels, and another trustworthy guy in the catch and shoot. Again, in the season where you are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league, Wiggins is actually shooting the ball really well, and all of those have came off the catch for the most part. So Wiggins still here, and he has the ability to extend that threshold to 9 players who have to play if he can continue his improved defensive output.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say about Aaron Wiggins too, when things were pretty dry offensively last postseason, Wiggins proved himself to be a guy that can actually go score in big moments. He had 18 points in a Game 2 win versus Indiana. He had 14 points in a Game 5 win versus Indiana. That one coming by just 11. He's a big-time scorer. Like he had some down games, certainly where he got yanked early because the defense wasn't working and he maybe missed a few shots. But he's also a player that you're going to be able to roll out there. And on any given night, he's maybe going to go for 20. So I think in a postseason where a lot of Thunders kind of fell by the wayside offensively, he rose to the occasion multiple times. Now, was it every single night? No, but he's going to get minutes. He's going to get rotational minutes, playoff minutes, just via how good he is offensively. So I wanted to give a shout to him because he fell a little bit under the radar as a name in last postseason, and he had some big games. So shout out Wiggs.
And I've won the coin toss, but I'd like to defer to you on these last two because I do believe that we both have Joe and Jay Whale. We flipped the order. I do believe this is a semantics flip. So I want to hear your case first.
Yeah, I have Jay Will first ahead of Isaiah Joe. Not that Isaiah Joe's 3-point shooting isn't massive, but I feel like Jalen Williams, if we were to rank last postseason, was pretty impactful as far as like this level of rotational player goes. Like had some big minutes on Jokic. He's pretty vital in filling in for iHeart or Chet, depending on the matchup. I just feel like as kind of the quasi third big on this team, he's going to have like an important role regardless of what happens. Like whether it's going out there and hitting threes, playing offense, playing defense, he's just kind of going to be like shoehorned into, hey, make things up as you go and kind of keep things afloat until the bigs get back or in tandem with one big or the other. So he's just kind of an important like Swiss Army knife piece. And I feel like I had to give him the nod for that.
Yeah, so it is what I thought. I mean, my reason for having him lower than Isaiah Joe is that I think that J. Will is exceptionally important against Denver. And I think that he's really important against Dallas if they're healthy, and really important against some of these bigger teams like Cleveland if you meet them in the finals. Like, he's important in those matchups. Those matchups are not guaranteed to happen. And the Thunder can get around playing J. Will by staggering Chet and Chet and Hartenstein's minutes to blanket the entire game in 48 minutes of elite center play. Whereas Isaiah Joe, like, regardless of matchup, he's gonna be in at the end of the first quarter, and he's gonna be trying to give them a spark from beyond the arc. So, like, Joe just by default will play regardless of matchup. So I've put him a little bit higher than J. Will. And this is a spot where I totally believe that either one could be there. And I think that this is a spot similar to Wiggins' defense. Like, by the end of the season, even by the All-Star break, we could have a much different view of who goes where. Because if J. Will really has taken a step forward with his slim down frame and his ability to play off the catch offensively, and with his ability to be more athletic defensively, if he has taken a step forward, then he does become a more important part of this rotation, for nothing else other than, if you do find out that the double big lineup is your best lineup, then you can play them for longer stretches together without having to worry about staggering the two, because you trust J. Will that much. And that would be, I think, the best thing that happens to this team. But for right now, I still have him below Isaiah Joe, because at least Isaiah Joe has a niche, has a stretch against every single team and every single matchup as just like this spark plug, 3-point guy at the end of the first quarter when it's just Shea out there to give Shea some more space to operate.
Yeah, we had the same 11, same starters, same reserves. We transposed Wallace and Mitchell, and then J. Will and Joe. I think we can both agree this is just an unbelievable rotation, right? I mean,
no one else can go to 11. Like, I guarantee you. Okay, let me say this. I guarantee you that nobody out there that covers a team professionally can list out 11 players in the context of the playoffs and most meaningful games and feel good about arguing for this 11th guy, this 10th guy, this 9th guy to get playoff level minutes. And that is just another thought exercise to show you just how incredibly deep and talented this team is. It's not just like a catchphrase that we say whenever we say that they're the deepest, most talented team in the NBA. Other NBA teams cannot do this.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you have to account for injuries too. We're already seeing it in the early part of the Thunder season. So there's a chance guys continue to be out. There's a chance, unfortunately, for season-ending injuries. And that just takes these guys up a place on this rotation too. So I think it's such a luxury to have 11 now. Maybe it ends up 8 in the postseason and they have some key guys out. But I myself would trust every single one of these guys. And even beyond this a little bit, I mean, Kenrich Williams, like these other guys, you can trust them to step in, play some pretty dang good basketball next to Shea, next to Chet, next to these starters that went and did it last year.
I want to give a round of applause to Coach Sonic, who is a cancer survivor. Shout out to you, Coach Sonic. I'm glad to hear that, my friend. I'm very happy for you, your loved ones, everything like that. So round of applause there. That was the first time playing the applause sound, so that was a lot of fun. What better occasion to bust it out for?
Right.
We're talking now about the NBA at large. We've seen a lot of fun NBA basketball today. I think that this has been one of the more fun seasons to start. Let's start with this one. Should the Pelicans just fire everybody? Because right now, after they lost last night, like Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans, news outlets in New Orleans, they're all calling for the heads of Willie Green, of their front office. Like, should the Pelicans really abandon this already?
I'm never going to be a person that's going to call for someone else's job. I just don't make a habit of that in this business. But I will say the reporting that came out when they traded their 2026 unprotected pick, and again, it's reporting. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but there were reports that there were teams calling and being like, are you serious? Like Atlanta called and was like, are you sure it's unprotected? Like, you're positive you want to do this? They called and said that per the reporting. That's not a good look. I think that's a bad look all around. So again, I don't want to call for anyone's job here, but that to me seems a little indicative of the Pelicans' own view of where they're at. I think everybody in the league, including Atlanta, obviously knew that this was not going to be a stellar basketball team. Could they have maybe pushed for the play-in? Sure, but just not a good look in New Orleans right now. But I do want to shout out Jeremiah Fears. He's been hooping. He's awesome, great player.
Hooping.
21 points on 66% shooting last night, 6 assists to 1 turnover. He's a baller. Derek Queen hasn't been too bad either. So at least they did draft well in 2025. But man, if that 2026 unprotected pick turns out to be like way, way up there, what an absolute blessing for Atlanta, who only moved 10 spots back and got their guy anyway in Asa Newell. So kind of a botch there in the 2025 draft.
Yeah, I think that the front office should be fired. And like, this is just a horrendous decision by them this offseason. It was a woeful offseason, and they're the culprits of all of this. I feel sympathy for Willie Green. I think that Willie Green is largely a product of both bad roster constructions and also bad luck. Like the fact that you have a guy like Zion and he never plays for you. You have Brandon Ingram, he gets hurt. You had CJ McCollum, he gets hurt. And like all these things start to mount. You had DeJounte Murray, he gets hurt. Like all these things start to mount, and it's like, what is he supposed to do? Like, yes, I make fun of him for playing Hunter Dickinson. But other than that, like, what is he supposed to do with this roster and the ebbs and flows of their injury reports? So I do feel bad for Willie Green, but this is not an indictment of him from my standpoint. I know Jake Madison is like much more fired up about Willie Green and the front office, obviously. I agree. The front office needs to just be canned, and this was a terrible vision. This was a terrible thing. The damage is done, but now you got to move forward. Now you've got to build forward. And I think that Willie Green is a victim of that as well, where it's like Willie Green represents something that is bad and has a negative connotation around this version of the Pelicans. There's reporting out there that the team has quit on him, that the team is done with his lineup adjustments and its rotations. If the team's quit on you and the front office is a terrible plan and there's just no way out of this, you might as well get a whole group of fresh blood in there at all levels.
Yeah. I mean, again, not a good situation in New Orleans. I do think you have to give it a little bit more time than like 4 or 5 games, whatever they're at right now. I mean, I've been making a mock draft, and like even I am like not taking so much stock in the season that I'm like everything's over for this team, or this team's absolutely going to go 82-0. Like you do have to give it a little more time than they've had, but not great vibes so far in New Orleans.
Speaking of 82-0, the Bulls on pace for 82-0 as they remain unbeaten 4-0. Listen, I'm going to ask the question, are they good? What I'm really asking is, what's the ceiling for the Chicago Bulls? Because clearly they're not a 4-0 team. They're not a team that's going to be a juggernaut. They're not a team that's going to win the finals. But what can their realistic ceiling be if some of this early success holds?
Yeah, I feel like the truth lies somewhere in the middle. They're doing some sustainable things in moving the ball. They've got some guys that are really, really playing well that I think can sustain that in Modest Pizelis, Ayo Dosunmu, things like that. But they're also getting some pretty lucky breaks like late in these games. And I don't think they're going to go 82-0. I wouldn't project that, but they can be a good basketball team. Whatever your version of a good basketball team is, I think the Bulls can be that. I don't know if I would want them to be in that position as a fan right now. I'm sure the vibes are up. I'm sure everything's great. There's probably a lot of Pizelis love, but I mean, to me, they still feel pieces away, and they feel a little bit asset deprived. So can they go be a postseason team this year? Absolutely. In my mind, I just still don't know if I would feel great doing that, but really fun team, really happy with their start.
I think that they can be a team that like builds on this momentum and becomes a 6 seed, a top 6 team that avoids the play-in tournament, but is also not a threat. And so it's like, you look at the end of the year, it's like, oh, what a fun story for the Bulls. They were consistently pretty good, but they're a regular season team. They're not a playoff team. And that'd be a nice season for them as they're on this like mediocrity train. I think that the floor for them, though, conversely, is the play-in. Like, I just don't see a path out of being bad enough to miss the play-in in the Eastern Conference, short of outright, deliberately, kind of obviously tanking, like to the point where you're investigating because you're tanking so hard. And I don't know that that's in the Chicago Bulls' nature to tank, even if it would be better for their long-term sustainability and success if they did that. So I say that their ceiling is a top 6 team in the East if they can carry this momentum, but a first-round exit regardless. And then their floor is the 10th seed, and they're going to be in the play-in again, and we'll see what they do in the play-in.
It's a pretty tight window.
Pretty tight window.
Little 4-team window there. I like it. Calling your shot.
I'm not confident in the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic, who everybody, including us, had in their top 4 of the Eastern Conference standings. How concerned are you about this horrific Orlando Magic start, including just this botched game against Detroit where they just are lifeless in the second half and they get blown out in Detroit?
Yeah, like you said, I had them, I believe, third in the East. Almost everybody had them as a top 4 seed. Some of the like bigger pundits had them as like, oh, they could go usurp number 1 from Cleveland or New York. I'm a little concerned, I'll be honest. They almost got my technical for the week, not because I think they're like badly constructed or anything, but because, as you touched on, the biggest problem here is like vibes, effort, defense, which they've leaned on for the last several years, has just not been there. That's stuff that's concerning. Like when it's like, okay, they're losing games, but they're playing well. That's one thing. That hasn't been the case. They're not playing well. They're not meshing. The vibes aren't there. Like that stuff's a little concerning. I will say they're going to bounce back at some point, but I mean, it caps their ceiling so hard to have this level of start that you can't afford for this to happen as a team that really, really wants to compete in a pretty wide open East. Like, yeah, the Knicks might be better. The Cavs might be better. There's a few other teams who are surging, but this is an open Eastern Conference. So to not come out with fire and drive and mesh and at least get like the hustle aspects of basketball down, pretty unconvincing start for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, and the Magic, of course, as Coach C points out here, like the Pacers were dreadful until the start of the new year, and then they turned it on. They made the playoffs. They hit a deep push into the finals. They went to 7 against OKC. So it's like it's not all over, but it's disheartening just to see this start from Orlando. I still believe I'll hold on to the take that they're going to be a top 4 team in the East when it's all said and done, record-wise. Now, does this bode well for their viability in terms of like competing for a championship? I don't know. I don't think so. It's kind of concerning, but it's not that concerning. So speaking of holding true to a take, is there a take that you let fly this summer that you're already ready to abandon? Now, caveat is, if you abandon them right now, you can't come back and take a victory lap.
No, there's no takes I'm ready to abandon. We've got guys here in the chat saying it's only been a few games, man. You can't make a take based on an 82-game sample and then backtrack after 5 games. That's not in my nature. I'm assuming that's not in our coach's nature. If anyone does, I'm going to tee you up. So no, I'm not backtracking right now.
Well, get ready to tee me up because I'm abandoning a take, and I promise I will not victory lap this if it somehow does come true in the future. But I had a take that Quinn Snyder would win Coach of the Year. And my reasoning for that was that he would put together a defense in Atlanta that was surprisingly good and was like, we're going to look at those defensive statistics and their win total and be like, how did Quinn Snyder manage to put a team this good defensively around Trae Young? Like he's building this around Trae Young and they're this caliber of defense. That's not going to happen. I mean, I'm not completely out on the Hawks. I'm not saying the Hawks are going to be terrible, but what I'm saying is they're not going to have a defense that gets a lot of credit in his Coach of the Year candidacy. I think that's a fair take to jump ship from.
Yeah, that's fine. I won't tee you up for that one, but as per your statement, I'm not going to allow you to victory lap either if it does come true, because I think you're backing out just a little early. But
I think that this one is fine. Now, again, I'm not backing out of the Hawks as a team. I'm backing out of their defense being so good that we talk about it. I don't think that we're going to talk about the Hawks defense this season for any positive reason.
I do like the Hawks, though. I know they haven't had probably the start to the season they've wanted, but they've got such fun pieces. I wish they, like the Magic, were maybe playing a little more connected, just a little bit more of like a fiery brand of basketball. But other than that, I can stick with the Hawks still.
Coach Flowers, I would vote to tee you up. I'm not going to get the consensus support I need, but he says that Quinn Snyder should have never left Missouri. Everyone should leave Missouri. Nobody should be at Missouri. That's terrible, but I know that Derek is a softie and he won't come down on Missouri.
I have no words on Missouri, the state. He's trying to say Missouri. If anyone didn't know what word Rylan was trying to say there, it is Missouri.
Yeah, I have my professional translator here. But what were your other takeaways from this first couple weeks of the NBA season?
I mean, we just touched on a lot of these teams, but just the bizarro start to the season for the entire Eastern Conference.
Say my team.
Chicago Bulls 4-0. Philadelphia 76ers.
Here they come, Philadelphia.
Miami Heat 3-1. Bucks 3-1. That's your top 4. Bulls, Sixers, Heat, Bucks. There were probably mock drafts not 2 weeks ago that had all 4 of those teams on them. So it's cool to see. Is all of that going to hold up? Absolutely not. But it is really cool to see that. And then on the flip side, we got Knicks at 7, Hawks 9, Celtics 10. That was a little bit projected. But then the Orlando Magic all the way down there at 13. I mean, bad start for them. So just a funky East. The West, little less shaken up, but the East is just insane right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm excited to see how this plays out. It is a wide open East. So what if this holds? That'd be a lot of fun. You mentioned, are the Spurs arriving as we feared? They have not even had the debut yet of De'Aaron Fox. They've dealt with some injuries as well throughout the course of the start of this campaign. They've also played some pretty bad teams like your Brooklyn Nets. Where are you at on the San Antonio Spurs?
Had to throw that jab in. I talk about it all the time because it's like truly the take I feel the most correct about. But Victor Wembanyama at some point is going to be like the guy, and then the Spurs are also just going to be like an unbelievably good team. I put that on here because they're 4-0, as you've touched on. They've been without Fox. They've been without Jeremy Sohan. They've been without some good players, and they're still 4-0, grinding out wins. I'm not going to say they've arrived yet. I think much like the Thunder's arrival, I think that the Spurs at some point is going to be like an oh no situation, but tentatively keeping tabs on San Antonio because they are going to be a tough team. And as we said on, I believe, Monday's live, nobody wants to see San Antonio in the postseason. I guarantee you do not want to deal with Victor Wembanyama for as many as 7 games. So nice start to the season for San Antonio. I also don't think it holds. They haven't played a very tough schedule so far, but interesting start for them.
Coach Flowers asks, Spurs versus OKC, who you got? Listen, I love what the Spurs are doing. I think that they're one of the most fun teams to watch in the NBA, which is not a hot take at all because they have Wembanyama. I cannot wait for the baseball-style series on Christmas Eve. Friends reference, look it up. And Christmas Day. I'm trying to convince Derek to drive down there for the San Antonio game on the 23rd. We'll see if I can make that happen or not. It's up to Derek. The ball's in his court. I cannot wait to see these two teams match up. I remain strong, even as Derek fears the impending doom that Wembanyama will put on the league. I remain strong that this season, the best that San Antonio can do is victory lap a point differential series where it's a similar spot that OKC was in where they lose to Dallas and everyone's talking about the point differential was 0 and this was their first real playoff experience and they had all these different issues. And it'll be similar to San Antonio where they're going to play if they played in the playoffs, it'd be a very fun series. It'd be must-watch basketball. It ends in 5 or 6, but it ends with a close point differential that San Antonio feels as though they can really build on.
It's honestly pretty health dependent for me. I think the Thunder at their best, I don't think I see San Antonio winning at all. But if the Thunder are still limping their way towards the postseason, I think Victor Wembanyama, much like a Jokic, would present such a, for lack of a better word, gravitational matchup in the Thunder coaching staff's eyes that they could potentially present some real problems. Like if they're that singularly focused on stopping Wemby as they were with Jokic, and that allows guys like De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Harrison Barnes, guys like this to really get hot because they're so much just honed in on Wemby. I think things could get a little slippery. Now, again, I would take the Thunder most of the time, depending on health, but the Spurs are scary for everybody. I really believe that.
I agree. And you wanted to end this NBA segment with a shout out to our fellow former Oklahoma Sooner, Austin Reeves.
Yeah, I saw a comment. I believe it was from Karam, but Austin Reeves, I know he's getting a lot of praise right now. I wanted to jump into that as well. He's just an awesome story. I think, he's plays for the Lakers and he gets free throws. He sells it a little bit like some other stars across the league. So the general consensus outside of LA feels a little bit down on him, but just such a cool story, dude. Not a ranked prospect coming out of high school, Wichita State, transferred to Oklahoma, sort of went undrafted. He officially did, but there were some teams that wanted to draft him. He wanted to go to LA. It's fine. Whatever. Go shoot your shot. And then from going from a role player in LA to a genuine star, he's actually doing real things in the stardom tier right now. I just think it's a cool story, and I wanted to shout him out because I don't know if it holds across a season, especially when Luka comes back, LeBron comes back. So wanted to give him his flowers now. He's been so good.
And Derek, we end the week the same way that we end every single live stream with our technical fouls. No coach has gotten teed up today. We have not given each other tees yet, but let's see what your technical foul is for this week.
Mine goes to Cooper Flagg.
That's a technical foul.
Who I have been very complimentary of. I think Cooper is an awesome player. I think he has gotten off to a little bit of a slow start. I'm not worried in the slightest. I think he's that good. Still think he's one of the best number 1 overall prospects we've seen in some time. Fully expect him to get to all-star level. Fully expect him to win Rookie of the Year. All these things. But Cooper too-smalled Mac McClung in a game last night, and I cannot let that fly.
That's a technical foul.
You can't have the season you've had, the start you've had. You can't get punked by Wemby, punked by Chet, have some gross 1-for-whatever shooting games, and then go too small Mac McClung. You got to read the room, buddy. Again, I think you're an awesome player. I think he's going to be really, really good, but you have to read the room here he is getting misused. Not totally his fault. Dallas is a mess. Not his fault at all. But too smalling Mac McClung. We're celebrating one jumper over Mac McClung. That is tech worthy, dude. Can't deal with it.
That's a technical foul.
Well, I'm glad that you've teed up him on the spin zone, which I'm pretty good at spin zoning things. On the Cooper Flag spin zone, he is accurate. Mac McClung is too small to be guarding him. So he is technically correct. If not now, then when are you going to use the too small celebration?
This is exactly the situation of the Texas quarterback, Manning, doing that to the FBS team or whatever, the FBC team, whatever it was. FCS. There we go. Yeah. How are you going to go and lose your first 2 out of your 3 games and then go flex on an FCS player? It's the exact same thing. I won't allow it.
There's something in the water down there in Texas. My technical foul, I've been pretty good at these, I feel like, not to pat myself on the back, but this time my technical foul is for an audience of like 1. My technical foul is, I'll say it broadly first so that way more people get it. Northern Illinois man calls Oklahoma City too cold this week.
That's a technical foul.
Our good friend, Matty T, the greatest man to ever live in Oklahoma City. He walked in to shoot around today and asked the audience sitting there awaiting entry to the Thunder practice court, is it still cold outside? And I was like, cold outside? It's not even Halloween yet. It's still 24 hours away. Cold outside? You're from North Chicago. You're from Northern Illinois. Cold outside in October in Oklahoma? As a Northern Illinois man, you've lost your roots. You've lost your way. You've lost your ability to call it cold in Oklahoma in October. It's cold for Okies. It shouldn't be cold for an Illinois State Redbird.
In his defense, it was 2 degrees away from freezing today. So I can see the connection. I also get what you're saying. But 34 degrees at 7:17 a.m. That's pretty chilly.
Listen, I never thought the day would come where I'd tee up my guy Matty T, whomst I love, but that comment,
that's a technical foul.
Technical foul worthy. It also helped him that I didn't have a ton of time to prep my technical foul for today. So when he said that, I just kind of threw it in there and lived with it because a lot has happened today that I had to get to initially. But Derek, we're back. Lockdown Thunder Live, Monday, 2 p.m. Central Time on this YouTube channel. We'll have it on your podcast feed after the fact. I hear from sources close to the situation that people need to go to Derek Park on YouTube for something very special as college basketball season returns on November 3rd.
Yeah, 100%. Not going to give too much away, but potentially fun video coming out tomorrow, if not Monday at 7 a.m., but should be a really fun one.
Should be a really fun one. I think it will be a fun one. Until next time, including after tonight's game against Washington, be good and be good to one another.